Hey everybody, it's Thursday.
And welcome to this week's edition of The Night Bite.
I'm Josh.
And I'm, you said that weird. I'm Emily. And I guess we're here for this week's edition of The Night Bite. And I say it that way because, boy, it has been some kind of a crazy week. And I'm wondering if there's just like something in the air or if it just is me. But I'm thinking maybe it has to do with the fact that it's now been like 2 weeks since we've been any kind of fishing. Longer than that? It has
3
been longer
weeks
than
almost.
that. And part of that is the conditions that we've been having to deal with. So, we always kind of start this off with a fishing report. And man, I guess that's kind of funny because
I don't have one for you.
Well, actually, it's funny that you say that because I didn't even tell you this. So I was at work today. I'm over at MEPS Fishing Tackle that's here in Anago. And so that's why fishing conversation is relevant. So somebody called us and it was not for a lure, right? And they said, hey, you guys are up in like that Anago-ish area, right? And so it's like, yeah, that's public knowledge. You can look up where we're at. Yeah, of course we're there. So, but this person was looking for ice conditions, like generally in this area. They threw out actually a specific lake at me. It was one that I recognized, which was really funny. But the person was asking about the conditions. They're just from just a little bit south. And what they were saying is that conditions down there have, I was going to say changed and deteriorated at the same time. I couldn't choose a word. But that's basically what they were saying, is that things have changed so quickly and deteriorated so quickly that they did not feel like they could be ice fishing even just 45 minutes, an hour south of us, Stevens Point area. And, they were asking me about up here. And so the funny thing is, last weekend, we're laughing because it's almost unbelievable. We got how many inches of snow? 30 something.
Over 30 inches.
Because there was 8 inches below that, and then there was one the night after, and yada yada. And the thing is, we just have snow on top of snow on top of snow at this point. And so prior to that, I can tell you that shorelines were really deteriorating fast because it's that time of the year where things were starting to melt. And actually, things were really starting to melt. We were down to almost no ice or snow left, right? And so all of that water was starting to push back and kind of flush into the systems. But then with all the snow on top of that made for some really interesting conditions. So I know lake by lake, situation by situation, but I will be honest with you, I'm not trudging through 30 inches of snow at this point to go and find out. And so I guess back to where I started this is this person was asking me for a fishing report, and I did a whole bunch of stumbling around and talking about the weather and all that. And I ultimately said, good luck. And there's just some times where you have to admit that you don't really know what the conditions are because, like we said, maybe it snowed so much or maybe you haven't been out there, but things, like we said, are changing so quick. So we talk about this all the time, but this is the time of the year to use your safety gear if you're still ice fishing, right? I know we have friends up north and way up north, Canada and stuff. Gosh, I guess they'll have ice for a while and we wish them the best of conditions. Hit us up. Let us know what that's like. But I think for the rest of everybody else, I think we're kind of, dare I say, forced to think about open water.
Yeah, I've been out a little bit at my job. We've been kind of pre-scouting for our sampling season to start up. And so if you don't know, I do a lot of water quality sampling and I do some fisheries work. And so we were just out checking like fish antennas. So we got a radio collar project or our radio tag project, not collar. I'm not collaring fish, but
imagine if every fish was collared.
But I got a radio tag project going on at work. We were checking our antennas, and like one of my coworkers was like, oh, we got to clean off the solar panel because that's what keeps the battery charged for the antenna. And he took a step off of the road and he sunk down and he was like up to his waist, but he couldn't touch the ground. He was just like sitting in snow limbo. And so like all of our stuff is buried. All the ice looks like junk. Like me personally, as a water professional, I wouldn't even try, because not only are you going to be chasing the good shorelines and stuff, but you don't know where some of that honeycomb has started. And even like I was talking with Emily, I took Tuesday off because there was just so much snow to remove at our house. And so I just took Tuesday off, and it only got up to 20 degrees. But even with 20 degrees, that sun was melting our driveway and our sidewalk through the clouds. And so that's an important thing, is because if it's going through the clouds, it's going through the snow, and you can tell that on the roads dry up really fast. And so it's just not worth it around here. Like Emily said, up north, you might be doing a little bit better than us, but we're hitting that point where we need to start thinking about getting out in the boat, which is hard to believe because it's buried under 30 inches of snow right now. Hey,
Well,
Troy.
and I think, I guess in reality, we talk about open water because that is ultimately the goal, and maybe the next time that we're going to set some hooks, right? But in reality, I would think, most fishermen are in this are in the same boat as us. That's a bad pun at this point. I'm sorry, but
Same
when
dry boat.
yeah, well, yeah, snowed in boat. But the thing about that though is that we are at that point where all the winter stuff is still out, and you do need to transition, and that always feels like kind of a big project. I was going to say daunting, and part of that is just because it's sad. You hate to put away the ice shack. You hate to, I don't know, what else do you put away? All of your favorite things, your bibs.
Well, first of all, before you start talking about putting it away, you have to make sure everything's dried out, because as we learned earlier, this season, if you don't dry out your shack, it's either going to be frozen or it's going to be molded. And so in this case, if you just throw it in the shed right now, it's going to probably get moldy. And so you don't want that. You want to be able to dry that out. And if you don't get any snow, you can, this is good a time as any. Just let it sit out, dry, pack it up, as long as you can keep it from getting wet.
Here we are. Josh was just throwing me under the bus again and again. I don't know how much we even posted about this. I guess I have some good pictures. I should go back and look and see what I put up. But that is what happened, is we went back. If you think way early into ice season, one of those first few weekends that we were able to get out, the ice was good ice conditions, but the day in specific went from mist to rain, and it was supposed to transition all the way to snow, but that rain lasted a lot longer than they expected it to. And so we were out on the lake, and it was funny because we were in our ice shacks, and it was great. It was great. Honestly, I don't know. We have the one-man otter shacks. I'm not even promoting them at this moment. I'm just saying it was awesome because I didn't have water seeping in. We enjoyed the rain. We enjoyed fishing the whole day. It was great. And then you have a smooth pull right off the lake. It's like flat ice with water on top. That was awesome. Okay, so it was in our garage, and it was a really busy week. And so I would admit that wet shack stay there. Okay, you could all imagine where this is going, and you could all laugh at me. But the next weekend was very much colder, and I thought because it was in my garage that my shack just wouldn't be frozen, but it was like super frozen. It was like very super frozen. And so look at your face. Don't even. I spent a lot of time with the heater and then I was like trying to get it. I melted the whole shack. I'm going to spoil the whole thing. It was long. It was tedious. It was terrible. The fish weren't biting that good though, so I didn't miss all that much, but it was devastating. Corey, have you seen the new? Oh yeah. Okay. I have seen the new jigs, but I'm not sure that everybody has. So Immaculate Tackle, you guys are known for that eye of that jig being, dare I say, usable. We should have you on. You can talk about this sometime. This is a great new product. I don't mean to describe it for you, right? But you have like a different shape. And so I am really interested to see how that's going to work out. I know people have really great success on Easy Tie Eye. There you go. That's actually awesome.
Hey,
we'll have you on to talk about it. You have all kinds of colors, and you always go to all kinds of fun shows and events and stuff. So I know that you are out there and people are seeing them, and I think that people love them when they find them. So we'll be talking a lot more about that. And I know you have great products for ice season, but you have some really great stuff for open water. And I think, we're talking about the transition in the season, and as people are putting away ice stuff and taking out open water, this is the time of the season that I'm like, oh, you know what I forgot to stock up on until now that I need it again. But this is still early on. You can still stock up, get all the things that you need. And jigs are always one of those.
Yeah, absolutely. Corey's also bringing up a good point, charging your electronics. And so this is a great point to make sure that you have at least a 50 to 70% charge in your electronics. It's recommended that it's like suggested that you don't store them at full capacity, you know, that 70 to 50%, but having it charged is better than not having it charged. And so it's a good time to do that. Make sure that you bring, you know, if your stuff is sitting in the garage yet and you don't have a heated garage like us, like we have to bring our stuff in, let it warm up first before you throw it on the charger, because that really does help prolong the life of your battery. They don't necessarily like taking a charge when they're super cold.
I'm just hoping that the whole everything warms up enough and that the garage is back to being useful.
yeah. But this is a good time. This time of year for me, as I'm putting stuff away, I like to check stuff like tip ups. You know, I'm gonna go through the Bite Me box tip ups and make sure that all that stuff is ready to go. So I don't have to do that coming into next year. I can throw it in the truck and we can go fishing, because that's always how it works
all
out,
of a sudden,
right?
ice season is always here.
Yeah, that's how it works on both ends. Like it's here and then it's gone, and you can never predict it. And so, in between me lighting fires to boil sap, which I haven't even got to do yet because we just got blizzarded on.
Everything's back to frozen.
It's like going through, taking inventory of your stuff, making sure that everything is where you want it for next year. And so if you want your early ice stuff, you want to be able to put that up front and then kind of progressively pack your late ice stuff to your early ice stuff. So that way your early ice stuff's in the front, because that's something that it took me a lot of years to figure out. And then I was always like digging through stuff, and then I have a pile, and then there's like trying to figure out where stuff is. If I just pack it by transition of the ice season, it makes it a lot easier for me to keep track of it. And then Emily's like, I don't even know where anything is, and then I'm like, whoop, there it is. And then it all works out. So
I wish it worked that way. Troy's asking, do you typically disconnect your batteries in your electronics when storing them? Do you? I do.
Yeah, I do. That's a good point. There's a lot of electronics that give you there's a small draw, and so you don't necessarily want to leave your stuff hooked up. That being said, we should be going and checking stuff in like July, August, some midpoint of the summer season, just to check where the batteries are at. And so if you do that, that little bit of drain is just drawing down. And a lot of the lithium batteries nowadays have like a battery management system integrated into the case of the battery, so it won't like over discharge. But yeah, it's usually a good practice, and especially if you're still using the lead acid batteries, definitely a good practice, because those don't have those battery management systems, and so those can discharge.
Well, and I'm going to jump in with a few more thoughts too, because I think a lot of things these days, when I think about the electronics that you use ice fishing. So first of all, the battery of your auger. So if you are running like a 40 volt, then that's a little bit different. If you have like a Milwaukee drill or another brand drill, then that's something that maybe you're using in other ways the rest of the year. And one of the best things for a battery is to be used, going through, I guess, those charge cycles being used, charged up. But I guess for I have a super generic statement, maybe this sounds dumb now, but always refer to the manufacturer, because like I have like it's backwards. However, amp batteries, amp outdoors, they have all kinds of really great information, super up to date and relevant to their product, because we can sit here and talk about in general this and that, but when you have your amp battery, you want to do it kind of, and you'll find a lot of them do it the same. That's why you can kind of
and Matt does some really good videos.
But I was going to say he's a perfect example, because he does really care so much. And I guess if you live all your batteries up to the Matt standard, you'll probably be okay.
Well, and I've never met somebody that sells their own product and then teaches you so much on how to make your product last as long as you can. Like, usually you'd think like he'd want to sell you more batteries, and he wants you to use his battery for as long as you can. And so he does a lot of work in putting out maintenance videos and all kinds of electronics videos and stuff that goes with his battery. So that's super cool of him to do. want to touch on?
You're just reading through all the
Yeah, I'm
comments
just reading
now.
through.
That's so funny. We'll have Corey on. That's all kinds of good stuff to talk about for sure. But I guess as far as, well, what were you going to say? Would you want to touch on? Otherwise, I'm going to move on.
Oh, you can move on if you want. I
Okay.
was just reading
Josh
through the
is
comments.
Josh has been giving me a hard time lately about we need to restock our jigs. And, we talked, oh gosh, it wasn't last week. Maybe it was the week before. But we talked all about walleyes and that season coming because before the snow, there was open ramps in Green Bay, right? And I don't know the status of those right now. Actually, I heard some spots on the Wolf River that were refreezing up with this weather.
Oh, really?
And that's kind of crazy, but nothing thick, right? We're not talking re-ice season. It's not like version 2.0, right? It's not that. But as far as the Rams go, I don't know how those are looking, but we are going towards spring. We are going towards that season. And so I have picked up a few. Yeah,
I don't even know what's in here. Did you bring supper?
You do know what's in here.
Whoa.
I'm doing a terrible job at this. I got some bucktails. Is that a bad color? Should I give you a different color? They're all good colors. That's the thing. Oh, you're doing just fine. Look, way better than me. Here. So I got all kinds of colors. That one, yeah, it's easy to see. Oh gosh, now I just want to do the whole box.
Hey, I just want to say Gene was super nice, and he came over and plowed us out. He plowed our driveway open, and it was super awesome. So thank you, Gene, for allowing Emily to go to work on Tuesday and for me to stay home and do some more work around the house. I appreciate it.
Well, and while I was at work, like we were saying, we were able to pick up some jigs. But I do know that people have some really super specific thoughts. Gosh, you did such a better job than I did. The camera's like closer to you. Look at that. It's so minnowy.
It is minnowy.
But people have all kinds of really specific opinions about what makes a good hair jig, what makes a good bucktail, what makes, a good spring fishing lure. And gosh, I should have opened this. This is like good packaging here. I think that there's a lot of people that are really specific about the amount of hair. And so I'm interested in people's opinion on how you fish bucktail jigs, what you're looking for this time of the season. Because gosh, these look so fluffy, but they're actually a little bit thinner in person. I actually like these. I will admit, I might trim one or two of these little tails. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, that's a good amount of hair, I would say. Maybe you could bring the belly down just a little bit, but in general, I think if I'm tying jigs, that's kind of how I would do it.
But it is funny because there's so many people that, especially during the spring run, they're like, oh, you have to do this, you have to do that. So if there's anybody out there that's willing to share their secret, I'm interested. But you've also been pretty busy making up some stinger hooks. Yeah,
that's one of those spring activities that I enjoy doing, and we fish the Green Bay area quite a bit, and it's known for being kind of snaggy sometimes in some areas, and so we have a tendency to go through a few dozen stinger hooks, but it's better than going through a few dozen hair jigs, right? Because it's a lot easier to make stinger hooks, but no, I really enjoy that. There's some really good tutorials on how to build stinger hook jigs. Essentially, it's 4 nails. If you want up to a 3-inch stinger hook, so you have your 1 nail in that you kind of put your loop around, and then you have 3 different sizes. So I typically run a 2-inch stinger hook. Emily likes to run the 1-inch version. I don't generally use a 3-inch stinger hook unless I'm using like a bigger plastic, but I don't really find myself, going up to like a 6 or 7-inch plastic very often. So, usually that 2 inches is about good.
Well, and then this is the time of the season, right? Where, it is an interesting conversation because in spring like this, are you out to match the hatch? Are you matching that size, shape, and profile? Or is this more of a reaction bite? Are you looking for something just like bright that they can see? Oh gosh, I gotta work on my cameramanship here.
That's okay. I run the camera usually.
Well, but that's a good question. It's a question.
Yeah.
So are you matching the hatch, or are you looking
Well,
more
I
for
mean, I
reaction
think
by
just like any other time of the year, you gotta have a little bit of both, right? I think in general, I tend to go towards natural colors during the early part of the spring because it's just because the water's open and there's fish moving into systems, it doesn't mean they are actively spawning. And so they're usually feeding at that point, and the water is still typically cold. So I usually try and stick with as small of a profile as I can and natural colors. And then as the water warms up, you're looking into that 50 degrees, mid 50s on up. I'll start throwing in some of fire tiger or pink or whatever, and kind of just go from there. But this is Crappie Junction, not Walleye Junction. So I like try my best, but I'm a par walleye fisherman at best.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. That's not true. I don't even think that's true. I mean, I think one of the factors is that we always fish walleyes in like such, I was going to say busy, crowded areas. I guess the whole bumper boat thing, and that happens, right? But I mean, I think it's funny because then you'll watch patterns of where fish are, boom, 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 right? It feels like everybody else is catching fish because you've seen 10 fish caught around you, but it's all different people, people, I don't know.
I guess
There's days where you go and you slay 'em.
you kind of feel like, I guess I can see why somebody would feel like that if, I'm not saying this in a bad way, but if you're riding in a boat, I can see how you would feel like that because like you're watching everybody because you're not having to run the boat. But when you're running a boat, like you have a lot of things going on, you're not trying to keep your boat off the shore, you're trying to keep your boat off the other boats, you're trying to keep your boat on a line. And this is all coming off of ice season. So you're jumping in the boat and doing maximum boat placement like right off the bat. And that's one thing that I kind of enjoy. I kind of like diving off the deep end into the boat and just getting right back into the swing of things. It's fun for me, and catching fish is a bonus.
I love this question, Troy. Do you think if you're using plastics, it should match the jig head hair colors, or do you start with more natural live bait colors? First of all, I will be honest with you. The number one thing I don't do is I don't try to match my plastic and my jig head to each other. I like to use a jig head that is contrasting. Maybe that's a good way to put it. And so either something that's like opposite kind of bright, or maybe metallic-y if I'm using natural colors. And the reason that I do that is because that plastic or the hair will mimic the bait. But I think, oh yeah, Corey, great. I think that contrast just gives the fish something to target because and this actually goes back to, I think, walleyes a little bit and stinger hooks, is because sometimes especially dirty water situations, where all that water is flushing down in spring, right? I think that's sometimes when you get those short strikes, is the fish sees something like as it's going by, and then it's like, oh wait. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking too much into this or making it silly, but I think that's why you get those short strikes, is maybe that bite isn't quite as aligned. But when you have that contrasting jig head up front at the front of your bait, I guess is where I'm going with this, and that when the fish is aiming towards the front of the bait versus like the tail end, I feel like you're more likely to connect with the hook. Maybe I'm reading way too much into this. I didn't even know I was doing all those things, but that's truly something. No matter what fish I'm fishing for or the conditions, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to parallel that. I don't think I've ever thought of it that way before. I thought of it more as like a food chain thing, right? And so you have to imagine that your plastic in and of itself is supposed to be your bait profile. And normally, like your jig head, unless the plastic is made to accept a certain plastic body, your jig head is additional. And so I always think of it as a bait fish chasing down something else, right? And so if you, like Emily, I like contrast for that reason. You have a little thing being chased by a slightly bigger thing, and then you want the bigger thing to eat your bait, right? And so that's kind of my food chain concept in my head. Whether or not that's the thing, that's why I said I parallel you. Like, it's just kind of, if it makes sense to you, I just think the general rule here would be contrast is usually better, unless your plastic is what is made for that jig head. Now, caveat to that, if you are trying to match a specific profile, like if it's that it's like, and 3-inch emerald shiners are running right now, that's what you want. So you get your emerald shiner color out of your box and you grab like a white or a chartreuse jig head. You can cut off a portion of your plastic and make your jig be that 3 inches, right? So then you would match it together, and so you would have one bait instead of the contrasting thing. So it's kind of a situational thing, but
I don't really know what you're saying there.
Well, you match. So if you're trying to get an emerald shiner, you don't need to have that contrasting thing. You just match your jig head to the bait color, and you pinch a little bit off so you have that correct size, right?
I see. I thought you were like pinching off a lot more or something. I'm like, that sounds great.
No, just enough so your jig head fits in there.
We just fish two different ways.
Yeah,
they're the same boat all the time, and we fish two different ways. This is one of those moments I'm like, that's what you're doing back there? That's weird. That's why you don't catch fish. I'm kidding. That's the first time. When you tease somebody like that is the moment that you start catching fish. the first time I'm like, let's go slay them, is the day that you get no bites. You just always have to go in. I hope they're there.
Seeing Corey's bringing up another point. So there, multiple colors might just be a curious thing, and so those are all those points. I think point you in a general direction that generally I would go with contrasting colors unless there's a very specific situation that you're trying to mimic.
Just one last thought about this. I just think it looks boring when you put the same color plastic on the same color jig. I just think it, and the stringers prove it. I don't keep fish often enough to have stringers. Maybe I'm a loser. Oh my gosh. But I guess this is another thing that we've been thinking about recently is I always feel like when we're between seasons, because I just don't really keep fish in the freezer because we just go so often. It's like if we want fish, then we'll keep it. But now, of course, because we're between seasons and we're not really fishing, is when I've been craving a fish fry. And it's funny because we were just at Wisconsin Fishing Expo and we just ran into the Chef Roberts breading mix.
Yeah,
but she is so wonderful.
Can you grab one of those quick? We have to show them because this is so awesome. Okay, so we ran into the Chef Roberts, we ran into Chef Roberts just I don't know, earlier this fall, and we started using some, and it's super awesome because most of you have done fish fries, and so you have to get your wash out, and then you have to get your eggs out, and then you have to put all your fillets in, you do the dunking thing, and then your hands get all caked up with everything, and then so you have to try and keep one dry hand and it's the whole dredging process is just a mess. And so with the Chef Roberts stuff, you don't need any of the other stuff. You just take the fish, you put it in the bread and then you fry it. That's it. That's all it is. And it's super tasty. And so I was just getting Emily she's just running up and grabbing a bag of it just so we can show you guys so you can check it out. Because you have to look it up, and I know that there's retailers, so they just sell wholesale, so you have to find retailers. I know there's a few guides and stuff in Minnesota. There's a couple of people over in Wisconsin here, but that's what you're looking for. And that's my favorite. She grabbed my favorite. There's lemon, and the nice part is there's 3 flavors. There's Cajun, there's original, and there's lemon pepper. And for somebody like me that's indecisive, that's perfect. But I do love the Cajun. But it's so easy. All it is you just one step. No eggs, no milk, no seasoning. bam, perfect. So I appreciate you grabbing that so we could show them. I think that's important.
I do also, Corey's pointing out that he likes the, well, kind of things, but the Frank's Red Hot. And if you don't have that recipe, maybe we'll put it out there one day, but that is actually my very favorite way.
Yeah.
We did still marinate it in Frank's Red Hot and then put it in the Chef Roberts one day.
Well, yeah, that's just because that's how you
crunchy
like
breading. Yeah,
you just like Frank's Red. We could put it in Frank's Red Hot and just like dunk it in flour, and you would like it because it's just like the Frank's Red Hot.
Fine.
I don't know if that's true. You might not, but I do like the Frank's. It is pretty good. I don't need it though. All right, so moving on, we were talking about jigs. So I think another thing that that we'll be checking out here pretty soon is going through all of the open water rods and making sure that it all has line on it. Because I'm almost positive one of your open water rods is like almost out of line from last season.
Is it my bobber rod?
Yeah, I think it's your bobber rod.
My bobber rod, I left in a condition that's basically unusable. And when I say basically, I mean entirely.
Entirely. She just threw it into the storage and said, "I'll take care of that later."
I was like, I at that point in the season, I was like cursing bobber. I hate bobbers. Nobody even likes bobbers. I don't know if I got caught on a crib because we were fishing bobbers like deep, or if I got caught on something, or a fish.
I think it just
took
got
me.
loopy.
I don't even know, but I had so much line that like had, and then it got a knot in it, and it all. And so then I was like, I'm just gonna fish whatever is left on here, and it ended up being like 30 feet.
Yeah, it's lucky you didn't get any like giant
20
fish on
feet,
there.
maybe even. Yeah, it was like tragic, and I was. At that point, I was like, just get me to ice season. Well, now we're back to here we are.
But that's okay because that's part of our transitions. Just making sure all that stuff is in good condition. Maybe throwing a few drops of reel oil, or if your reels are really dirty, going through and cleaning some of that stuff out, and then re-greasing and lubing stuff, just because it just makes it so much nicer when all of your stuff is smooth and you're not getting all kinds of weird things happening with reels. So that's something that we gotta go through. And line is so important to check this, because it's something that I never think of during the season, right? It's like once the season starts, it's like just use it. And I just need to get better at like checking stuff like leaders and knots and stuff like that, because I just keep like stuff just has nicks in it and it breaks, and just need to check it. Look at your face.
I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. I just hate all of the prep work going to the new season. It's like, just get me fishing again. But that is kind of true. And I guess this is a good time of the year to also be planning your next excursions, because there's a lot of great fishing out there. And if you're looking around the state, a lot of great opportunities, even kind of wherever you are, kind of local. But one great way to explore that, I guess, a little shout out to Wausau. Oh yeah, to Onyx, yeah, if you're looking for new fishing places, yeah. But also shout out to a Wausau event this weekend. The Muskie Fishing Expo is going on. Is that actually what they call that, Muskie Fishing Expo?
The Wausau Muskie Fishing Expo, or the Wausau Muskie Expo is what they call it.
And because you were talking about fins, braid, and line, and I just know that they're going to be at that event.
Well, I didn't mention fins. No. Yeah, now you did. Now you opened up that can.
Well, I mean, I think it's been good. It's been good. I've loved using it. It's been awesome. But I think even like we're pan fishers, no matter what it is that you're fishing for, I mean, there's a line for you.
Yeah.
And go check that out at the expo. Lots of great stuff there, but not us. I don't know. We might have a few other plans this weekend, so we're gonna see how that all shakes out. But we'll tell you about it later. After.
Listen to you. I don't even know what she has planned. She came home and then she's like, we got to get ready for the show. And we didn't even get to talk.
I didn't even change into fishing clothes because I just like came straight from work. I was like, it's been a crazy week. This is coming full circle. That's what we talked about in the beginning of the show. So
yeah, it was.
Oh goodness. But I guess you did make a good point. Shout out to Onyx Fishing, because as you are exploring new areas, that's something that we do always reference. And actually, even just I was talking about a lake the other day, and we were talking about water depths and just basic maps. Aside from even just the fish data, I always love to look into all of that. So definitely use that. And to find some of the boat ramps. Because I feel like, I don't know, where we are, rural areas, like it's sometimes it sounds silly. Sometimes it's hard to find where boat ramps are. It's just true. And then sometimes they're listed as like rustic.
Yeah.
But then you get there and you're like, no, they mean like kayak launch at best. So to be able to leave some little notes and pinpoints for us, and that helps guide our open water season. But as always, we have a few new destinations that we're going to try this open water season. And we do always take open water, and okay, there's like walleye season in the beginning, and then as we move back towards the lakes and stuff, we just pretty much take all of that time as an investment to ice season, because that's it's way easier to cover water in open water.
Yeah,
it's easier to cover water in open water. That was a weird way to put that, but you know what I mean. And because in this case, there's a few new lakes that we wanted to try. That's what we were talking about, as new spots. And so when we can use the boat, use graphs, not have to drill 8 billion holes, and just be able to kind of cruise around quietly all day. That's something that really definitely helps us hone in onto those fish in ice season. So looking forward to that, actually.
Yeah, I am looking forward to being able to do some more scouting. That's always a fun part of the open water season for me. Finding all the new little spots to try during ice, and actually being able to go back during ice fishing and use that. Super fun.
Okay, I don't know. I think I got to be honest. That's maybe, especially for not having fished in 3 weeks, that's more than I even plan to talk about. So if anyone has anything else, you can toss it out. And I suppose we have a few more minutes. But otherwise, man, like I said, it has been quite the week, and we are going to be preparing for one last day of work. And I wonder how far we would have to drive south to find open water.
Probably not that far, according to your.
Well, that's true.
To your call that you got today at work.
Oh my gosh. But if anybody at home has like a fishing report or an ice report, or let us know what conditions your waterways are at, because this is that time of the season where everything is evolving and fast. So it's kind of fun to watch all those trends and see where that ice line is, or that open water line is. And maybe if we hear some tips on open water, maybe that's where you'll find us. So I don't know.
Otherwise, yeah, that's all I got. I guess I'm wearing my Fatande hat because it's that season. It's big fish season, no. So check out Fatande.
I was wondering if you were going to get something mounted. You have that hat on like it's your business.
Me get something mounted? Yeah, right. You catch all the big fish.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, then hopefully I'm going to be the one that catches a fish some of these weekends coming up. Oh, open in the Mississippi. Oh, that's good fishing. Let's go there.
Maybe.
Our boat's all buried in. So we'll have to see how that goes. But to everybody with open water, good luck out there, and be safe at all those launches. And I guess anybody with ice, good luck. Or if there is anybody. But we'll certainly let you know what we find ourselves up to, and we'll bring you a report again next week. And otherwise, I guess thanks for joining us on this week's edition of The Night Bite.
Night, everybody.